Hi everybody, welcome to Revitalise Meets, where I get the opportunity, as always, to meet business owners, key influencers and key business leaders from across the global business network. And today I've got the great pleasure to be with a gentleman who's got over 13 years experience in his business right now. He's the owner and proprietor of GN Coaching and, no pressure, the host of the podcast show. Can you please join me in welcoming today online at Revitalise Meets, the one and only Mr. Geoff Nicolson. Geoff, how are you today?
Very good, Lee. How are you?
I am very well indeed. Thank you very much. And it's an absolute pleasure. We've spoken many. We've followed each other on social media platforms. We eventually get ourselves together, and I welcome you along to my podcast today. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. So let's kick things off today. Would you mind everybody know who's watching and listening today a little bit about your business journey so far?
Yeah, so I started back in 2007 after suffering from a 6-year long illness that stopped me from working. I decided to go through a bit of a career change, went from printing to becoming originally a therapist. So I started off as a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner and trainer with people who suffers from extreme stress conditions and helping them get back to work. And then, 2008, the crash, I started to look at the business and went, actually I enjoyed coaching more, and that sort of mindset development and performance and helping entrepreneurs achieve ultimately the goals that they're looking to achieve. But I wanted to help my clients look at it from there was that buzzword going around about hustle. And I hate the word hustle because so many people have the wrong connotations of it. So really it's about helping people healthily hustle. So making sure that they're looking at both the private and their business lives. And I've worked all over the world doing training programs for people and supporting people to achieve the results that they're looking for in life and business.
Absolutely super. It's been a cracking sort of journey that you've taken on so far, and
so much it's been interesting.
Windswept and interesting journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Over that time you've been doing everything, what's been your biggest achievement or challenge that you've overcame over those years?
I think the initial challenge from probably as many entrepreneurs is believing that you can do it. Is you get all of this advice when you're starting out, telling you you should do it this way or you should do it that way. And most of the time they contradict each other. I think part of it was actually because I left school at 16, I always worked for family businesses. To go out on my own, that was probably the biggest challenge to go for, and to go through my first recession, go through 2008, which completely knocked the business on its head. But it taught me some real valuable lessons in actually having the importance of having a plan and making sure that you're constantly filling your funnel. Because I think it was in one way, it was quite easy to get the work. But then when all of a sudden that work just disappeared overnight, it was realizing that I didn't have that pipeline to keep filling it up and to carry it going. So the lesson of doing it on your own, and then the pipeline, making sure you've got something in the pipes. That was the big one.
I think when you look at the pipeline, people forget about that so much. They build it and build it and build it.
Yeah.
And then they build it to a certain stage and they forget that the pipeline is sort of stopped because the activity stopped as well. So it's getting that balance right between the two that's in there.
Absolutely.
To achieve that. So over the past 18 months, we've had plenty of things going on that we all know about, certain things. How have you adapted your business presently to, like what we're doing right now, is embracing a virtual world as such, really? How have you adapted your business journey over the last 18 months?
Yeah, so I think there was two things. Is one, the big one was I love tech, but to probably use it more. Certainly rather than, and in some extent, a lot of us have been forced to do it more. Was the one-to-one coaching clients, the enrollment calls, the discovery calls, where I normally like doing it face-to-face because I like feeding off the energy, and speaking events as well. Actually, to do it via a digital platform, I had to learn a lot more, not only about the tech and making it look more professional, but then also how to change the way the imagery looks, so it's not boring and just, just the dull beige behind or whatever it is. So that part of the technology. But then the other thing was to look at, actually, with what I already do, how can I broaden that expanse of services and products that I can provide that actually excite me? Because I think when you're going through something like this, and regardless of what the challenges were, when you're going through that thing that's really going to shake up not only our industry but everyone's industry, it's how do you spread out a little bit more to give you a little bit more, maybe fingers in the pot, maybe more revenue streams that you can attract more cash flow when one sort of dips down. But also, I think the key thing is to have fun while you're learning this technology. It's quite intimidating when all of a sudden, regardless of when you actually, I find speaking in front of 50 people, 100 people, whatever, a lot more enjoyable than actually trying to do it on screen, because there's no energy. So having to find strategies to actually build that energy up and develop that energy through doing online events rather than actually just the face-to-face ones.
It's a good point as well, because when you're doing, like you say, when you're looking at doing it yourself online or recording yourself, it's true, you don't have the audience part, the audience energy, or even the engagement to get from it, because you're trying to gauge that yourself and trying to think about what people are going to be like in the audience. And I think that's a real good point. And it's also as well, it's embracing what's around you. And I love the part of the revenue streams, because we've now got a global audience. I mean, have you found that as well? I know we're diversing slightly here, but have you found a wider global audience that you can speak to now?
Yeah. So I was lucky, because when I started the business, within about 2 or 3 weeks, I was ending up working in Norway. So I very quickly got, because of what I did and what I specialized in at the time, I had that. But certainly with the podcasting side, or even doing sort of summits or something like that, you no longer, because a long time ago, you used to be stuck to your postcode, and that, so generally it was, all right, everyone in Newcastle or everyone in Bradford or whatever it was. But now the great thing about business, and because of the digital platform, is you can speak to someone in Florida, or you can speak to someone in, Australia. And I think that's one of the great things. I always laugh because, I'm so grateful for those 2 people in Saudi Arabia that listen to the podcast every week, because I get to see the stats, and you look and go, that's 43 countries now. I'm making an impact of some sort. And I think that is the marketplace completely changes from that point of view.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing I noticed as well over the last few weeks. I mean, it was like last Friday, I went round the world in a day. Go around the world in a day. Well, I was in Scotland in the morning. I was in Chicago by lunchtime. I was in Connecticut straight after that. I was in Ireland on that day, and I came back to Glasgow by the sort of late afternoon. Didn't even have to fuel the private jet or anything like that at all.
No. It's a lot cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper indeed. So yeah, a global audience is completely now open to us.
Absolutely.
And it's great the way you've embraced that adaptation. So for everybody who's watching and listening out there today, what would be your golden 3 tips of advice for more of your coaching background and looking at the mindset, because we've had to keep that focus now, and really reflecting on your performance? So your top 3 golden tips.
Okay, so I think that, and these 3 have always been the same, from recovering from my illness right the way back to how I do business. So the first one is protect the asset, and you are the asset. As not only as the parent, the partner, the business owner, and yourself, you are the most important asset to you, full stop, no matter how much you love your kids or anything. And the reason why I say this is for 2 things. Is most of us have been on an aeroplane. We know the rule, the oxygen mask comes on, and the golden rule is that we put on our oxygen mask first, because when we can breathe, we can save the people around us. But I think that's such an important life lesson as well, is because if people, and I know from myself being ill for 6 years, and that was being housebound, unable to do anything, depression and all of the other bolt-on features that come along with that. My wife and my kids spent far too much time worrying about me because I wasn't at my optimal best. And when we can look after ourselves, and that's mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, maybe if that's what you need to do, if you can look after yourself and be at the best level you are, actually what you can do is you can focus more of your attention doing the things that you want to do, caring for the people around you, than the other way. So for me, that's the number one pillar. I call it being positively selfish, because it's something that I think is vital, and I don't think enough people do it. The thing that I think will probably come up is the last 18 months would have taught us a big lesson about how important that bit is. Because that relation of, whether we're stuck at home or whatever, I think that's going to be a big lesson for all of us. The second one is planning. I remember when I started my business and I was like, I'm going to do this because no one can tell me how to do. I'm a free spirit. I'm just going to go off. But what I learned, not only from actually my business, but also I should have brought that lesson through from my recovery, is if you don't have a good plan, then actually one of the hardest things to do is you lose direction. And I see it so often is too many people lose their path because they don't, I asked the question, how many people would love to be successful? Everyone's hands go up unless they're shy. But then within about halfway through my presentation, I'll go, how many people have a plan? And that probably drops to about 4%. Well, how many people look at that plan on a day-to-day basis and we drop again? Now, the thing is if you want to be successful, but you don't have a direction of what you want to do, and you don't keep on that sort of checking what you're doing, it's going to be very, very hard for you to stay on track because, and I'm sure you'll know this, Lee, as well, from your experience in business and knowing people, is the more energy we put in, the more distracted we get. So all of a sudden is we'll find ourselves doing this trajectory divert, and time, energy, money, all of that stuff could be a huge waste because we aren't staying as close to the plan. And the benefit of getting off track, there's even more benefit most of the time in actually going, hang on, I'm going completely the wrong path. This is what I need to do. So now the plan in itself, just very quickly, has just sort of 5 stages. It's the definition of what success means to you. So understanding what drives you, that's what I call heart-led. It's the thing that's going to give you the energy when everything's going wrong. It's the fuel, it's the burn that just says, this is what I'm going to do. The second stage is the big picture. Now, as a coach, I would be not doing my job properly if we didn't talk about vision. That's the head bit. That's the imagery. That's the realizing that if I achieve this, this is what life is going to look like. The third stage is what I call HITS. Now, HITS basically stands for health, income, tribe, and self. So for me, these are the 4 core outcomes that we should be looking at every time we make a plan. Because remember, it's not just about the business, it's about us. So if we're always protecting the asset, what are we doing in our health? That might be physical, mental, emotional. Income, well, world doesn't go around without money. As a business, we need to hit our sales, we need to get our targets, we may need as a person to get rid of our debt, increase our savings. Tribe is the people around us. It's not only the people who are our friends, our family, because not everyone gets on with family, but it's our friends and family, but also the important one is our support structure. Who are the people around us, our closest associates, our mastermind groups, our coaches, whatever. And then the final one is self. Now, I'll let you guys work out on yourself. Normally, I would always put self first, but it doesn't look so good if I put it in that case. But self is vital. You've got to look after you in order to achieve your exceptional results, is what I call it. The 4th stage is goals. We need to look at our goals. The one thing I would say is if you're looking at your, let's say you're going through SMART model, don't look as relevant, as realistic, because I hate that word. Look at it as relevant. Does it fit into your life? Because realism depends on how you feel emotionally and who are around you to say you can do this or you can't. And then the final phase is rituals or processes. So what I mean by that is rituals are our habits. What do we have to do on a day-to-day basis consistently to create a result within our lives? And processes are the things that we do within our businesses to help us achieve our exceptional results, our targets, whatever it is. So that from that point is the planning. But then the third one is going on to that is that routine. It's bookending your day. It's looking at, how do I start the day right, and how do I end the day right? What do I do to start off at the peakest level I can? Because if you start low, generally you'll finish low. But if you start high, you can start fighting that wave and trying to keep as high as level as possible. The last part of that bookending your day is actually promoting good sleep. Because despite what you may think, that only having 2 hours a day of sleep is really useful, it's an absolute lie. And there's a reason why they use sleep deprivation as a torture, is we need it. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're promoting good hours sleep. Now, generally they say between 6 to 8 hours a day. Some people are slightly different, but that's normally a general rule. But what are you doing to get the good energy of sleep to do that? And I think for me, they are the three most important ones.
There's some great points there. I mean, you talk about even part of that routine is really important.
Yeah.
I hope everybody's watching and listening to this has got their notebooks at the ready and they've wrote down all those different areas, because again, they'll be reiterated back in a post that I'll put out after today's sort of Revitalise meets. But I think when you talk about the routine of where you set yourself up in the morning, as I was always said, setting your stall up the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Momentum going all the way through the day that you'll finish on that high. And then your planning organized the weeks ahead of yourself, so you know exactly what you're going to be doing every single day, so it keeps the momentum and the drive forward.
Yeah, because you see, most people when they do that, and I know I used to do this. You used to come in, you started at 9. I used to arrive at 5 to 9. I used to sit down and go, right, I'm going to plan my day. And that hour at the beginning is the day that you get told of all the problems, all the things that have gone wrong, all the emails to respond to. And then what happens is you don't build up to that. And people have to learn to focus. And if you're not spending that time to focus, then actually what's happening is, because you've probably experienced flow. You're in it and it's just, wow, time seems to be flying and I've got loads done. But if you get interrupted, it takes between 20 minutes to 30 minutes to get back to that flow.
True.
So there's probably a majority of people who are watching this who actually never get into flow during their working day. And it's all about understanding how the mind works and getting the brain to work for you, not against you.
Yeah, some great points, Geoff. Really are some great points on that one. Thank you for sharing those. As we say, they are golden nuggets of knowledge.
Indeed they are, yes.
And we talk about mindset, we talk about performance, we talk about all this planning, we talk about self-reflection. And that's what I'm going to come on to next is, what have you learned about yourself over the last 18 months or further afield, especially what you've been through early on as well, through self-reflection, through business, through people that you got around, your tribe, your connections, or through trainings, knowledge that you put in place? What's been your point of looking at learning from yourself?
Yeah, so I think to understand where I am now, realistically, that's kind of like started back in 2000, where I got meningitis twice. I was ill with chronic fatigue syndrome for 4 years. Within that, I was bedbound for a year, housebound for 4, and I went through, depression, low self-esteem, anxiety, everything. And it took me to the brink of suicide. So that was the biggest, if anything, that there's not, well, God forbid, there's nothing really going to affect my life as bad as that did from a mental health point of view. But I think the self-reflection which you talk about, I think it's always important to sit there and really reflect and delve about what's going on with ourselves. So whether it's meditation processes or whether it's journaling and reflecting through your journals. A great one I always recommend people to try, that if they've never done it, is the 5-minute journal by Intelligence Change. Just asks 4 or 5 really simple questions, and you can get it on an app as well. But I think for me, it's always knowing that you've got a great people around you. If my support network is sacred to me, so I'm very careful who I allow into that network. There has been people that have come and gone because, you know, you discover things and, you know, perhaps they're not as true and honest as you think they are. There's been the willingness to talk about my problems. So my wife and my kids were very, very open with each other about what the challenges are. Because I've got a good self-reflection because of what I've gone on through, I always kind of like know the signs, but I've got a couple of people who have gone through the same sort of thing who I'm quite open with and honest, because I don't see any point, and I'm only saying this because I've learned the hard way. There's no point hiding it within. The whole idea of depression is because you're not expressing your emotion. And you're going through that, you're going through technically a conflict of, no, I can't say that because so-and-so is going to think I'm weak or stupid or whatever. There's a very swift word on that, which we'll obviously not use for the show, but you just have to kind of like go, it's a load, whatever. Because the truth of the matter is when you can open up and you can express yourself freely and you surround yourself with that safe space, don't get me wrong, the last 18 months has been challenging. You know, for me, there was an element, if I'm going to be completely transparent, it did feel like almost like I was ill again because there was the restriction of not being able to go out or whatever. But with good friends, with the ability to have the knowledge that I have now, and again, this is self-learning, dedicate time to, you know, working on yourself and mindset and development and stuff. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But actually, when you give yourself that time, when you do your meditation, and yes, I am going to talk about meditation, because ironically, I've interviewed over 300 people for the podcast. Nearly every single person I speak to has done either meditation or some sort of mindfulness practice every single day. Now, some of them may class prayer as that meditative state. But you don't have these people who run multi-million-pound businesses who are doing this stuff if it doesn't work, because they don't want to waste energy on stuff like that.
Very true.
But journaling comes up, meditation comes up, doing exercise. You know, I've walked more the last 18 months than I ever thought that was possible, to be honest. But I was able to do that with my wife and my kids, so we did it because everyone was here. You know, so there's all of that stuff, and I think that the most important bit is drop the ego. Just because there's something in your head that says, oh, I'm not going to try that because, I don't know, meditation is for people who wear hemp and Crocs or something like that. What you want to do is you want to drop it and you want to go, if so many people who are successful are doing it, then I need to try it. And if you try it and you don't like it, that's fine, but don't let the ego tell you that it's rubbish because you're worried what someone's going to say. I think that's probably the biggest lesson of all. It's the ego bit. You got to drop it and just get on with it.
Yeah, I think the meditation and taking time out and having that moment, that voice, that inner voice saying, "No, you don't be doing that. You got to be doing this." You got to take the time. I've learned that. I've learned the hard way. In fairness, what I've just started to do again, which you talk about exercise, is doing 6K at 6 o'clock each night. That's my switch off time.
Cool.
I don't have any music or anything. It's just my own self thoughts, and I'll do my routine. You know, I've started to do that again since yesterday evening. Felt so much better for it.
Yeah.
You know, you feel a bit more rejuvenated, revitalized.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, I think some great points to have on that, especially when you look at the support circle you have around you.
Yeah.
That people understand where you are and leave that ego to one side and just tell people what's happening.
Yeah.
You can take on anything if you've got a crowd of people that are with
Absolutely.
you.
And I think the important thing, I think the important thing is friends are not always the best part of your support system. Because sometimes, like, my definition of a good friend is supporting you and telling you, you know, if you ask my opinion, you'll get my opinion. I won't be blowing smoke.
Yeah.
But I think some friends think they're being great friends by just saying what you want to hear, even if it's at the detriment of that individual. And to be a good friend means that sometimes you have to have those challenging conversations, even if it risks that person being annoyed with you or upset with you or angry with you. Because if you want an opinion just to go, yes, that's what I think you should do because you'll look good, I don't think that's been fair on you as a person and your integrity, but certainly not on the person that you're speaking to who wants that advice or feedback or whatever. So I think that's a really vital part as well.
Yeah, some really good points there as well. And thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Geoff, thank you. So within that we spoke about today and the journey that you've been on and the people that you've been helping and the podcasting and the coaching and everything else, what's through the next door of opportunity for you? What opportunity knocks for you next?
So I think that there's two parts. So I've always done my coaching. I'll always do that. I think the one thing I've found really fascinating is, I think what we're going to find is a huge, because of the last 18 months, I think people's well-being, people's mental health is going to be so key at the forefront of people's thoughts. But when I watch therapists and new coaches starting out, many of them are scared of technology. Many of them, there's a difference. There's entrepreneurs and holisticpreneurs is what I call them. So an entrepreneur knows what they're doing. They're waiting for the next thing. They know about the systems and stuff. A holisticpreneur is doing it because they want to change the world. But what they don't necessarily know is systems, processes, how to do those sort of things. So I'm sort of really looking at focusing on coaching more new coaches, new therapists to help them make a difference. And then the other thing is seeing just how far I can take the podcast. There's I think realistically the world is an oyster when it comes to something like a podcast. I think you touch more people's lives. You can have really great conversations and meeting people. You don't have to get prepped like you do for a video. So it's a lot more. But then again, video is important. So it's just looking at all the different technologies. So yeah, I'll always do the coaching, but maybe looking more at, I've got 13 plus years of experience in this side of it, and then I've got the podcast, and so those are the real focuses, I think.
And it's true. I mean, I wish you all the very best for the endeavors that you're going to do.
Thank you.
We spoke about through today's focus and drive. Stick to the course. Stick to what you might
absolutely
slightly what your plan's going to be, and you're going to be focused along that. So if I can help in any way, shape, or form, for fact, we're there to help as a circle. So with everybody who's watched and listened today, how can somebody who goes, do you know what? I need to speak to Geoff. I need to have a conversation with him. How can they make contact with you, good sir?
So you can go to geoffnicholson.co.uk. That's Geoff with a G. Or you can find me on social media if you just look for Geoff Nicolson UK. That's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And you can book in a call with me, and I'm more than happy to help in any way possible I can.
Brilliant, Geoff. Thanks so much. And I highly recommend anybody who's been watching and listening today and wants to organize that virtual cuppa is to click the button, connect with Geoff, get the kettle on, start the conversation, because you never know what's around the corner in opportunity wise when you start those conversations. So make the call, get connected with Geoff. So Geoff, thank you so much for today, and thank you for joining us today on Revitalise Meets. I really appreciate you spending it and explaining and sharing your business journey.
Thanks, Lee. Take care of yourself.
You're more than welcome. And thank you to you all for watching and for listening today. Stay tuned for more Revitalise Meets coming very, very soon, where as always, I get the chance to meet with many global entrepreneurs and business leaders from across the global network. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. And for me and Geoff, keep connecting, everybody. See you all soon. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.